The war had lasted for 17 years. 17 long, terrible years of death and loss. The Galactic Coalition had thrown everything they had against the Dominion, but nothing worked. World after world fell to the enemy. Fleet after fleet was destroyed. And still, the war continued. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternity's Edge. He was old now, older than he had ever expected to become. His 4 eyes, once bright and full of hope, had grown dim with exhaustion. He had seen too many ships explode. He had written too many letters to families who would never see their loved ones again. He had watched his great coalition slowly crumble, piece by piece, like a building falling apart in slow motion. "Admiral," said Commander, swimming up beside him in her water-filled suit. She came from an ocean world called, and her people could not survive in air. "The Council is ready for you." Nodded slowly. He did not want to attend another council meeting. He knew what the numbers would show. He knew what the other leaders would say. But he had a duty, and he would fulfill it until the very end. The council chamber was filled with representatives from every coalition species. They stood in the back, their tall bodies nearly touching the ceiling. They were a proud people, warriors by nature, but even they looked defeated now. They sat in special chairs designed for their crystalline bodies. They were the scientists of the coalition, the builders of great technology, but their technology had not been enough. They clustered together in a corner, their insect-like bodies clicking and buzzing with nervous energy. They were the most numerous species in the coalition, and they had lost the most soldiers. "Begin," said the council leader, a very old named. Stepped forward. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing maps and numbers and graphs. None of them told a good story. "We have lost 47 worlds," said. His voice was steady, but inside he felt like screaming. "Our fleet is now at 32% of its original strength. The Dominion advances on 3 fronts. At the current rate of loss, we will be completely defeated within 4 years." Silence filled the room. It was the silence of people who had no more hope left. "What do you suggest?" asked. Had no answer. He had tried everything. Direct attacks, defensive positions, flanking maneuvers, strategic retreats. Nothing worked against the Dominion. Their enemy was too strong, too ruthless, too willing to sacrifice everything for victory. "We follow the codes of engagement," said a young officer. "We fight with honor, perhaps if we—" "Honor means nothing to the Dominion," interrupted. "General Tarn does not care about codes. He does not care about rules. He only cares about winning." This was the truth that no one wanted to accept. The coalition fought with honor because that was what civilized species did. War had rules. War had limits. You did not attack civilian targets. You did not use weapons that caused unnecessary suffering. You announced your intentions before attacking. You accepted surrender when it was offered. But General Tarn, the leader of the Dominion forces, followed no such rules. He attacked without warning. He destroyed civilian ships. He executed prisoners. He used every terrible weapon he could find. And because the coalition would not lower itself to his level, the coalition was losing. "There must be another way," said quietly. "There must be something we have not tried." At that moment, a communication officer rushed into the chamber. His skin was pale, and his hands were shaking. "Admiral, our long-range sensors have detected something." "Another Dominion fleet?" asked, his heart sinking. "No, sir, something else. At the edge of charted space near the outer rim." The display changed, showing a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Had never seen this system before. It was far from the war, far from anything important. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "Sir, we detected an artificial energy signature. Someone on that planet just achieved faster-than-light travel." The room went silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. A new species, a new civilization. In the middle of a war that was killing them all, the universe had revealed something new. "Who are they?" asked. The communication officer pulled up more data. Images appeared on the display, strange two-legged creatures with soft skin and only two eyes. Their ships were small and primitive, barely able to leave their own star system. Their technology was thousands of years behind the Coalition. "They call themselves humans," the officer said. "They come from the third planet in their system, a world they call Earth." Studied the images carefully. These humans looked weak. Their bodies were fragile. Their ships were simple. They had no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armor. By every measure, they were an insignificant species on an insignificant world. And yet something about them made feel strange. He could not explain it. Looking at those two small eyes, he felt something he had not felt in years. It was not fear, exactly. It was more like the feeling you get when you see a storm coming on the horizon, a feeling that something big was about to happen. "What should we do?" asked. "Should we contact them?" Normally, the Coalition would not contact a species so young. They would wait until the new civilization was ready. They would observe from a distance for centuries before making first contact. But these were not normal times. "Yes," said finally, "we will contact them, we will tell them about the war, and we will see what happens." Some of the council members objected. What could these primitive humans possibly offer? They had no advanced weapons. They had no great fleets. They had nothing that could help the Coalition. But overruled them. He did not know why, but something told him that these humans were important. Something told him that this small blue planet held a secret that could change everything. "Prepare a diplomatic ship," he ordered. "We leave immediately." As walked out of the council chamber, swam up beside him. "Admiral, do you really think these humans can help us?" Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 47 conquered worlds waited for liberation that might never come. Somewhere out there, the Dominion prepared its next attack. Somewhere out there, billions of Coalition citizens prayed for a miracle. "I do not know," admitted, "but we have tried everything else. We have followed every strategy, used every weapon, sacrificed every advantage, and we are still losing. So perhaps it is time to try something new. Perhaps it is time to ask for help from someone different." He paused, thinking about those strange human eyes. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "it is time to find out what these humans are really made of." Little did Admiral know that he was about to discover the answer, and the answer would change the galaxy forever. Captain Park had dreamed of the stars since she was a little girl. She had grown up in a small town, looking at the night sky and wondering what was out there. Now, at 34 years old, she was the captain of the UES Horizon, humanity's first ship to travel faster than light. She had worked her entire life for this moment. The Horizon was not a large ship. It carried only 50 crew members and enough supplies for a 2-year journey. Its mission was simple: explore nearby star systems, find new worlds, and report back to Earth. It was supposed to be a peaceful mission of discovery. Then the alien ship appeared. "Captain," Lieutenant Minyu shouted from his console, "something just dropped out of hyperspace, 200 kilometers ahead." Spun her chair around. The main screen showed a ship unlike anything she had ever seen. It was enormous, at least 5 kilometers long, with smooth curves and glowing lights along its hull. Next to it, the Horizon looked like a toy. "All stop," ordered. Her voice was calm, even though her heart was beating very fast. "Weapons offline. Open all communication frequencies." Minyu looked at her with wide eyes. "Captain, are you sure? We do not know if they are friendly." "If they wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead," said. "That ship is 100 times our size. Fighting is not an option. Our only chance is to talk." For several long minutes, nothing happened. The alien ship just floated there, its strange sensors scanning the horizon again and again. Could feel the eyes of her crew on her back. They were scared. She was scared too, but she could not let them see it. Then a message came through. It was in a language no one understood, full of clicks and hums and strange tones. But after a few seconds, the ship's computer began to translate. The aliens had sent a mathematical key, a way to decode their language. They wanted to talk. "They are inviting us aboard," Minyu said, his voice shaking slightly. "They want to meet us." Stood up and straightened her uniform. "Then we should not keep them waiting." An hour later, stood in a shuttle bay larger than most buildings on Earth. The alien ship was even more impressive on the inside. Everything was built for creatures much bigger than humans. The ceilings were very high. The doors were very wide, and the aliens themselves were very strange. Admiral stood before her, his 4 eyes blinking in what she hoped was curiosity rather than hunger. Beside him was Commander, floating in a suit filled with water. Behind them stood soldiers of different species, tall ones, crystal ones, insect-like ones. They all stared at like she was some kind of exotic animal. "I am Admiral of the Galactic Coalition," the tall alien said. His voice came through a small device that translated his words into English. "Welcome aboard the Eternity's Edge." "I am Captain Park of Earth," she replied. "Thank you for not shooting us." There was a moment of silence. Then, to surprise, Admiral made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are direct," he said. "I appreciate that." Over the next several hours told everything. He told her about the Coalition, an alliance of many species that had lived in peace for thousands of years. He told her about the Dominion, a cruel empire that wanted to conquer everyone. He told her about the war, 17 years of fighting, 47 lost worlds, millions of dead. Listened carefully. She asked questions. She studied the star maps and battle reports that showed her, and as she learned more about the war, a strange feeling grew inside her. "Your tactics," she said finally, "they are very organized." "Of course," replied. "We follow the codes of engagement, all civilized species do. You announce your attacks before you make them. It is proper. You retreat when you take too many losses. Unnecessary death serves no purpose. You do not attack civilian targets. That would be barbaric." Was quiet for a moment. She looked at Commander, who was watching her with curious eyes. She looked at the soldiers standing around the room, all of them strong and well-armed, all of them losing a war they should have won long ago. "Admiral," she said slowly, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "How many wars has your coalition fought before this one?" "Thought about it. 3 major conflicts in our recorded history. All were resolved through negotiation within a few years." "And the Dominion, how many wars have they fought?" "Many. They are a warlike species. They have been fighting since before they developed space travel." Nodded. Now she understood. These aliens were not stupid. They were not weak. They were simply inexperienced. They had spent thousands of years in peace, developing technology and culture and civilization. They had forgotten what real war looked like. But humans had not forgotten. Admiral said, "I need to contact my planet." The message took 2 days to reach Earth and another 2 days for a reply to come back. During that time, learned more about the Coalition and its enemies. She met with military leaders and studied their strategies. She ate strange food and made awkward conversation with creatures that looked nothing like her. And she thought. She thought about history, human history. She thought about all the wars her species had fought, all the blood they had spilled, all the terrible things they had done to each other. She thought about generals who had sacrificed millions of soldiers to capture a single hill. She thought about weapons that could destroy entire cities in a flash of light. She thought about children growing up in bunkers, about survivors eating rats to stay alive, about prisoners who were worked to death in camps. Humans had done all of this, to each other, for thousands of years. And now there was a new enemy, a bigger enemy, an enemy that threatened not just Earth but everyone. When the reply from Earth finally came, read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she went to find Admiral. "Admiral," she said, My government has authorized me to offer our help. Stared at her. Your help, Captain Park, I mean no disrespect, but your species is very young. Your technology is primitive. Your military is small. What could you possibly offer us? Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that no one else knew. Admiral, let me ask you something. How long have your species been at peace with each other? How long since how long since they went to war against anyone? Thousands of years, said proudly. We learned long ago that war between civilized species is wasteful and wrong. Exactly, said. You learned to stop fighting, you created rules, you became peaceful. She leaned forward, and something in her eyes made take a step backward. Humans never learned that lesson, Admiral. We were still fighting each other when your ships found us. We have been fighting since the very first day of our existence. Every generation, every century, every single day of our history, somewhere on Earth, humans were killing other humans. She paused to let that sink in. You want to know what we can offer? We can offer you 17,000 years of experience in the art of war. We can offer you strategies that no civilized species would ever imagine. We can offer you the one thing your coalition lacks. And what is that? Asked quietly. Smile grew colder. We can teach you how to fight like you have nothing left to lose. We can teach you how to win. And most importantly, Admiral, we can teach you how to make your enemies afraid. Admiral looked at this small, soft human with her 2 eyes and her fragile body. And for the first time in 17 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. 3 months passed. The coalition continued to lose ground. 2 more worlds fell to the Dominion. Another fleet was destroyed. Hope faded a little more each day. Then the humans arrived. Admiral stood on the observation deck of Coalition Central Command, watching as 200 ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were not beautiful ships. They were not elegant or graceful like Coalition vessels. They were ugly, all sharp angles and dark metal, covered with weapons and armor. They looked like they had been built for only one purpose: destruction. They are so small, Commander said, floating beside him. It was true. Even the largest human ship was only a quarter the size of the Eternity's Edge. Their technology was clearly less advanced. Their shields were weaker. Their engines were slower. But something about those ships made uncomfortable. They reminded him of something, though he could not say what, something dangerous, something hungry. The human delegation arrived an hour later. General Han walked at the front, his boots making sharp sounds on the metal floor. He was not a large man, none of the humans were large, but he moved with a confidence that made people step out of his way. Behind him came Colonel Jinna Oh, a woman with glasses and cold, careful eyes, and beside her walked Major, whose face wore a constant small smile that never quite reached his eyes. The council chamber was full. Every coalition species had sent representatives. They all wanted to see these strange creatures who had promised to end the war. General stepped forward and looked around the room. He did not seem impressed by the size of the aliens. He did not seem nervous about being surrounded by creatures that could crush him with one hand. He simply stood there, calm and patient, like a man who knew exactly what he was going to do. We have studied your war records, he said, all 17 years of them. And what have you learned? Admiral asked. I have learned that you are very good soldiers, replied. Your tactics are sound, your technology is advanced, your courage is without question. Then why are we losing? Small smile grew a little wider. Because you are fighting with rules, and your enemy is not. A general stepped forward. He was tall and proud, with scars from many battles. We follow the codes of engagement because that is what civilized species do. War must have limits. War must have honor. With respect, General, that is exactly your problem. Turn to Colonel Jinna. Show them. Jinna activated a holographic display. But instead of battle plans or tactical diagrams, she showed something else entirely. She showed human history. Images filled the room. Ancient humans fighting with sticks and stones. Medieval armies clashing with swords and arrows. Soldiers charging across muddy fields while explosions tore the ground apart. Cities burning. Bodies piled in trenches. Mushroom clouds rising into the sky. The coalition representatives watched in growing horror. Some of them looked away. Others could not stop staring. "What is this?" whispered. "This is us," Major said. "This is human history." "You did this to each other." The general's voice was shaking. "Your own species." "For thousands of years," Jinnah confirmed. "We fought over land, we fought over resources, we fought over ideas. We fought because our skin was different colors. We fought because we different gods. We fought because we were bored." She changed the images. Now they showed specific battles, specific tactics, soldiers hiding bombs under their own bodies, generals sending wave after wave of troops against fortified positions, chemicals that melted lungs, diseases created in laboratories, weapons that could destroy entire planets. "This is wrong," and scientists said. His crystal body was flickering with distress. This is madness." "Yes," agreed. "It is madness, we know that. We have always known that. And yet we could not stop ourselves. For all of our history, we tried to destroy ourselves. We came very close to succeeding many times." He paused, looking around the room. "Eventually, we did create rules. We made laws against certain weapons. We signed agreements to protect civilians. We built organizations to prevent wars and punish those who broke the peace. We tried very hard to become civilized." "And did you succeed?" asked. "Sometimes, for a while, but here is what you must understand, Admiral. Those rules we created, they were not natural to us. They did not come easily. We had to force ourselves to follow them. Every day, every generation, we had to choose to be peaceful instead of violent." Colonel Jinnah stepped forward. "The rules were chains we put on ourselves, chains to hold back what we really are." "And what are you really?" The question came from a young officer, her insect eyes wide with fear. General looked directly at her. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "We are predators," he said. "We evolved on a planet where everything wanted to kill us. Bigger animals, smaller animals, the weather, disease, other humans. Every single day was a fight for survival, and we won. We won against everything the universe threw at us. Do you know why?" No one answered. "Because we are the most dangerous species that ever lived on our world. We are not the fastest or the strongest. We are not the biggest or the toughest. But we are the most creative when it comes to killing. We are the most patient when it comes to hunting. And we are the most ruthless when it comes to survival." He turned to face Admiral directly. "Your enemy, the Dominion, they think they are cruel. They think they are ruthless. They think they know what it means to fight without mercy." A cold smile crossed his face. "They have no idea what mercy looks like, because they have never met us." The room was completely silent. Even the constant clicking of the head stopped. "What are you proposing?" finally asked. "Give us 5 hours," said. 5 hours with your enemy. Let us show them what human warfare looks like. Let us teach them the lessons we have spent thousands of years learning." "And if we do, what happens then?" Major spoke for the first time. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "Then the war ends, one way or another." Admiral looked at these humans, these small, soft, fragile-looking creatures. He looked at their ugly ships floating in space. He looked at the images of destruction still glowing in the holographic display. And he made a decision. "Very well," he said. "You have your 5 hours." General nodded. He turned to his officers. "Colonel Jinnah, begin cyber operations immediately. Major, prepare your fleet for insertion. Captain Park, you will lead the assault on their command station." "Sir," all 3 officers spoke at once. As the humans filed out of the council chamber, Commander swam up to Admiral. "Admiral, are you sure about this? These creatures. There is something wrong with them, something broken." Watched the humans leave. General was talking quietly with his officers, their faces calm and focused. They did not look scared. They did not look nervous. They looked like people going to work, like this was just another day. "Perhaps they are broken," admitted. "Perhaps they are mad. Perhaps they are the most dangerous thing in this galaxy." He turned to face. "But right now, Commander, they are on our side. And after 17 years of losing, after 47 worlds conquered, after millions of lives lost, I am willing to let the monsters fight for us." Outside the station, the human fleet began to move. Ugly ships, built for war, piloted by a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to kill. The wolves had arrived. And they were hungry. General Tarn of the Dominion sat in his command chair, feeling satisfied with himself. The war was going well. The coalition was breaking apart. In a few more years, maybe less, they would surrender completely. He would be remembered as the greatest general in Dominion history. Then his ship's lights flickered. "What was that?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," his communications officer replied. "Some kind of interference with our systems." Tarn frowned. Interference was not unusual in space. Solar radiation, asteroid dust, old debris, many things could cause problems. He thought nothing of it. That was his first mistake. Across the galaxy, Colonel Jinnah O sat in a small room aboard a human ship. Screens surrounded her, showing lines of code and network diagrams. Her team of 30 hackers worked silently at their stations, their fingers flying across keyboards. "First wave deployed," one of them reported. "Second wave in 10 seconds, another added. Jinnah nodded. The coalition had tried to hack the Dominion before. They had followed standard protocols, careful, systematic, predictable. The Dominion had blocked every attempt easily. But human hackers did not follow protocols. Instead of one attack, Jinnah launched thousands. Instead of targeting military systems, she targeted everything: life support, navigation, weapons, communications, even the coffee machines. Instead of trying to shut things down, she made them go crazy. Ships began firing at random. Navigation computers plotted courses into stars. Doors opened and closed without reason. And in the confusion, her team slipped through the cracks. They found the secure channels. The encryption keys. They planted viruses that would wake up later at the worst possible moment. General Tarn received reports of malfunctions across his fleet. 3 ships had accidentally fired on each other. 2 more had lost navigation control. His communications network was filled with strange messages in a language no one understood. "Find the source of this interference," he shouted. "Shut it down." His technicians tried. They really did. But every time they fixed one problem, 3 more appeared. It was like fighting water. No matter how many holes they plugged, more leaks burst through. That was the first hour. In the second hour, things got worse. Major had spent 3 weeks hiding in the radiation shadow of a dying star. His fleet of 50 small ships had drifted in silence, running on minimum power, invisible to any sensor. It had been uncomfortable. Some of his crew had gotten sick from the radiation. 2 had died. But did not mind. He was patient. He had waited longer for smaller prizes. Now, as chaos spread through the Dominion fleet, made his move. His ships emerged from hiding directly behind the Dominion supply lines. Not the main supply lines. Those were too well defended. The secondary ones. The ones that carried fuel and ammunition and food to the frontline fleets. The Dominion had not bothered to guard these routes heavily. Why would they? The coalition always attacked military targets. They followed rules. They were predictable. Humans were not predictable. In 90 minutes, fleet destroyed 47 supply stations. Fuel depots became fireballs. Ammunition ships exploded with enough force to shake nearby planets. Food transports were torn apart, their cargo scattered across the void. General Tarn received the reports with growing disbelief. His supply lines were gone. His fleet had enough fuel for maybe 3 more days of combat. After that, his ships would drift helplessly in space. "Who is doing this?" he demanded. "The Coalition does not fight like this." His intelligence officer pulled up the sensor data. It showed small, ugly ships with unfamiliar designs. "Sir, these vessels do not match any Coalition species. They appear to be new." "New? What do you mean, new?" Before anyone could answer, alarms began screaming throughout the ship. The main fleet was under attack. Captain Park led the assault herself. The Dominion Forward Command Station was a massive structure, bristling with weapons and protected by dozens of warships. The Coalition had tried to capture it 7 times over 17 years. Each time they had failed. Each time they had retreated when losses became too heavy. Did not plan to retreat. Her fleet of 60 ships came through an asteroid field that navigation computers said was impossible to cross. She lost 5 ships in the passage, torn apart by rocks and debris, but she did not stop. She did not slow down. She aimed her remaining 55 ships directly at the station and ordered full speed. "Captain," Lieutenant Minu said from beside her, "they are launching fighters." "Good, that means fewer ships guarding the station itself." "We will take heavy losses." "I know." His voice was calm, too calm, Minu thought. She sounded like someone who had already accepted what was coming, someone who had made peace with death. "All ships," said into her communicator, "weapons free, attack pattern Omega, no retreat, no surrender." The battle was brutal. Human ships were smaller and weaker than Dominion vessels. They should have been destroyed easily. But the humans did not fight like the Coalition. They did not form neat lines. They did not take turns firing. They swarmed like angry insects, coming from every direction at once. And they did something the Dominion had never seen before. They rammed. When a human ship was too damaged to fight, its crew did not abandon it. They aimed it at the nearest enemy and accelerated to maximum speed. The explosions were massive. Each ramming attack destroyed at least 2 Dominion ships. General Tarn watched the battle from his command ship, unable to believe what he was seeing. These creatures were insane. They were throwing away their lives for no reason. They were fighting as if they did not care about survival at all. "Destroy them," he ordered, "kill them all." But for every human ship destroyed, another took its place. For every attack repelled, 2 more came from different directions, and slowly, impossibly, the humans were winning. Captain's ship broke through the defensive line with only 15 others still flying. The station loomed ahead of them, huge and dark against the stars. "Target the command center," ordered. "Fire everything we have." The station's shields were strong. The first volley barely scratched them. The second did a little more damage. By the third volley, only 8 human ships remained. "Did not stop." "Captain, we cannot survive another exchange," Minu said. "Then we will not survive," replied simply, "but neither will they." She opened a channel to the remaining ships. "This is Captain Park. Anyone who wants to fall back, do it now. No one will think less of you." No one fell back. The 4th volley brought down the shields. The 5th tore open the station's hull. The 6th hit the reactor core. The explosion lit up space for 1,000,000 kilometers in every direction. When it faded, the Dominion Forward Command Station was gone. So were most of ships. Only 3 survived, including hers, barely holding together. General Tarn sat in silence as the reports came in. His command station was destroyed. His supply lines were cut. His communications were compromised. His fleet was in chaos. And it had only been 3 hours. In the 4th hour, General Han contacted him. "General Tarn," the human said, his face appearing on the screen, "I believe we should talk." Tarn wanted to refuse. He wanted to fight to the last ship, the last soldier, the last breath. That was what Dominion generals did. That was what honor demanded. But then he looked at the humans' eyes. They were calm, patient, almost friendly, and completely empty of mercy. "You have two choices," continued. "Unconditional surrender, complete and total, or we continue. And General, I promise you, if we continue, there will be nothing left to surrender." "You are bluffing," Tarn said. "You have lost most of your fleet. You cannot." "Cannot what? Cannot sacrifice more ships. Cannot lose more lives. General, we have been sacrificing ourselves since before your species left their home world. We are very, very good at it." Leaned forward. "The question is not whether we can continue fighting. The question is whether you can afford to let us. Because right now, in this moment, you still have a fleet. You still have soldiers. You still have something to negotiate with. But if you make me fight for one more hour—" His smile was thin and cold. "Then you will have nothing." In the 5th hour, General Tarn surrendered. Not because he had to. He still had ships. He still had soldiers. He could have fought for months, maybe years. But he looked at those human eyes, those patient, hungry, absolutely merciless eyes, and he understood something terrible. These creatures wanted him to keep fighting. They would enjoy it. And if he gave them the chance, they would destroy everything. Not because they had to, but because they could. Because deep down inside, underneath their calm voices and professional uniforms, they were something ancient and terrible. Something that had evolved in darkness and blood. Something that had survived against impossible odds because it was more willing to kill than anything else in the universe. Tarn was a warrior. He had killed millions. He had conquered worlds. He had never been afraid of anything. But looking at General Han, he felt fear for the first time in his life. "I surrender," he said, "unconditional, complete." Nodded, a wise choice. The transmission ended. The war was over. It had taken exactly 4 hours and 53 minutes. The war ended at exactly 4 hours and 53 minutes after the first human attack. 17 years of fighting, 47 conquered worlds, millions of deaths, and it was all over before most coalition citizens had finished eating breakfast. Admiral stood in the medical bay of his flagship, watching doctors work on the wounded. Human wounded. They had suffered terrible losses in the battle. Of the 200 ships that had come to help, only 71 remained. Thousands of human soldiers were dead or dying. And yet when looked at the survivors, he saw no despair on their faces, no regret. They joked with each other, they shared food, they smiled. One soldier, a young woman with bandages covering half her face, saw watching her. She raised her hand in a gesture that had learned was called a thumbs up. "Good fight, Admiral," she said. "Real good fight." Did not know how to respond. In coalition culture, war was a tragedy. It was something to be mourned, not celebrated. But these humans seemed to view it differently. For them, combat was natural, familiar, almost comfortable. It disturbed him deeply. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The Dominion surrendered all conquered territories. General Tarn was taken prisoner and would spend the rest of his life in a coalition prison. The 47 conquered worlds began the slow process of rebuilding. And everyone talked about the humans. Stories spread across 1,000 star systems. Stories about ships that rammed their enemies instead of retreating. Stories about soldiers who smiled as they died. Stories about generals who spoke softly and carried weapons that could destroy planets. Some species were grateful. The humans had saved them. The humans had ended the war. The humans were heroes. Others were terrified. If the humans could do this to the Dominion, what could they do to everyone else? What would happen when the humans decided they wanted something? What would happen when humanity grew stronger? Captain Park became famous throughout the coalition. Her face appeared on news broadcasts. Children played games pretending to be her. Politicians invited her to speak at important events. She accepted none of these invitations. Instead, she spent most of her time alone, staring out windows at the stars. One day, Admiral came to visit her. He found her in an observation room on his flagship. She was sitting in a chair by the window, holding a cup of some human drink called coffee. She did not look like a hero. She looked tired, old somehow, even though she was still young. "Captain Park," said, sitting down across from her, "I wanted to thank you before you returned to Earth." "You are welcome, Admiral. May I ask you something?" She nodded. "I am grateful for what you did, truly, but I am also troubled. I have watched your species fight. I have seen how your soldiers die, and I do not understand." "What do you not understand?" Thought carefully about how to phrase his question. "You are not monsters. I have spoken with many of your people. They are kind. They love their families. They create beautiful art and music. And yet we kill so easily," finished. "Yes." Was quiet for a long moment. She looked out at the stars, her reflection floating ghost-like on the dark glass. "Admiral, let me tell you a story. On Earth, we have two kinds of animals that humans often compare ourselves to: wolves and sheep. I am not familiar with these creatures. Wolves are predators, hunters. They live in packs and kill other animals to survive. Sheep are prey. They eat grass. They run away from danger. They are peaceful and harmless." She took a sip of her coffee. "For most of our history, humans told ourselves we were sheep. We built civilizations. We created laws. We made rules about when killing was allowed and when it was wrong. We convinced ourselves that we were peaceful creatures who only fought when we had to. That sounds noble." It was a lie. Her voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "We were never sheep, Admiral. We were always wolves. Wolves who learned to wear sheep clothing. Wolves who taught themselves to be gentle. But underneath the clothing, underneath the training, we are still wolves." She turned to look at him directly. Her eyes were calm, but there was something deep inside them, something old and dark. "The coalition species evolved on peaceful worlds. Your civilizations developed slowly, carefully. You had time to become truly civilized. But Earth was different. Earth was a death world. Everything there wanted to kill us: animals, plants, weather, disease. Even the planet itself tried to destroy us with earthquakes and floods and ice ages. How did you survive? By being more dangerous than anything else. By being smarter, more persistent than any other predator. We did not evolve to be peaceful, Admiral. We evolved to win, at any cost." Absorbed this in silence. Outside the window, stars burned coldly in the infinite darkness. "So the rules you created," he said slowly, "the laws against war." "Chains," said. "Chains we wrapped around ourselves to keep the wolf inside us sleeping. And most of the time they work. Most of the time we are peaceful and kind and civilized. We raise families. We create art. We dream of a better future. But when you are threatened, when the pack is in danger," smile was small and sad, "then we take off the chains. Then we let the wolf wake up. And then, Admiral, we become what we were always meant to be. And after the danger is gone, what then? Then we put the chains back on. We go back to being sheep. We try to forget what we did, what we are capable of, what we really are inside." She stood up and walked to the window, pressing her hand against the cold glass. "That is the human story, Admiral. We are wolves pretending to be sheep. And we are very good at pretending, so good that sometimes we even fool ourselves. But when someone threatens the people we love, when survival is at stake, the pretending stops. Will it ever stop permanently? Will humans ever truly become sheep?" Was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was very soft. "I hope so. We all hope so. That is why we keep wearing the chains even though they hurt. That is why we keep making rules even though part of us wants to break them. We are trying, Admiral. We are trying very hard to be better than our nature." She turned to face him. "But I cannot promise you that we will succeed. I cannot promise you that humanity will always be your ally. I cannot promise you that someday we will not become the threat that other species fear." "Then what can you promise me?" Walked over to him and extended her hand. After a moment's hesitation, took it. Her grip was surprisingly strong for such a small creature. "I can promise you that for now, in this moment, we are your friends. I can promise you that when you needed us, we came. I can promise you that the wolves fought for the sheep today, not against them." She squeezed his hand gently before letting go. "And I can promise you one more thing, Admiral. If another threat appears, if some other enemy rises up to threaten the coalition, you can call us, day or night across any distance, and we will come. We will always come." "Why?" Smiled. This time it was a real smile, warm and genuine. "Because that is what wolves do, Admiral. We protect our pack." She gathered her things and walked toward the door. Before she left, she stopped and looked back. "Take care of the galaxy while we are gone. Try to stay out of trouble. And remember." Her smile faded, replaced by something older and harder. "Never make us your enemy." Then she was gone. Admiral sat alone in the observation room for a long time after that. He thought about wolves and sheep. He thought about chains and civilizations. He thought about a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, filled with creatures that had spent their entire existence learning how to kill. And he made a decision. He would be kind to the humans. He would treat them with respect. He would never, ever give them a reason to see the coalition as an enemy. Because he had seen what they could do when they took off their chains. And he never wanted to see it again. Far away, across the vast emptiness of space, Earth spun quietly in its orbit. Its people went about their lives, working and playing and loving and dreaming. Most of them had no idea what their soldiers had done. Most of them had no idea what they were capable of. They were just sheep, going about their peaceful sheep lives. But deep inside, sleeping restlessly in the hearts of 7 billion humans, the wolves waited. Patient, hungry, ready. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, a new prayer began to spread. It was whispered by traders and soldiers, diplomats and children, species that had never met a human and species that knew them all too well. The prayer was simple, only a few words, but everyone who spoke it meant it with their entire being. May we never become the enemy of the wolves who pretend to be sheep. The war had lasted 17 years. The humans ended it in 5 hours. And the universe would never be the same.